Hi all, today is August 29th and I thought it was time for a new tour in the greenhouse. I've got all fans off. The blower might be on in here, so it might be a little bit of noise in the background, but I've started using the greenhouse in the snow as my seed starting space now, and that has been awesome. Things really do well in here. It's been a whole new environment in here this year because it is completely enclosed now. The end walls weren't done last season, and then this little short south wall wasn't complete, so there was still fresh air coming in, but now it's completely enclosed and it's a whole other environment in here. These are all the peppers in the north bed, and the tomatoes are doing okay in here this year. They're not doing as well as they did last year, and I'm wondering if it's too hot. I'm not really sure. So I'm kind of thinking that now that we're the end of August, we're heading into September, maybe it's going to be just a little cooler in here because of the angle of the sun. So maybe I'm wondering if I've been struggling with a little bit of the blossoms falling off because of the heat. So we'll just walk through here a little. I'll talk about what is going on in each bed. So as I said, these are peppers. Got lots of flowers. I haven't had a ton of peppers this year, and I'm wondering if it's been too shady on this north bed because the sun is so directly overhead in the summer months that it's kind of shading this bed a little, which I actually thought that peppers kind of liked a little bit of shade during the hottest part of the day, but not my peppers. Here are a couple of the citrus trees. This was the key lime tree that pretty much died back to nothing because of the winter, but now it's got new growth. You can see here. This is what is this one? This is the Tangelo tree, and it looks good. It even flowered, so maybe we'll see some fruit on there. This is, you've been hearing about Peppergate. Well, I think that's a tomatillo that got in a pepper package, and I just kind of wanted to see what it would do. I left it, and what it did is attract aphids, so now I'm gonna pull it out. And this is one of the lime trees. It's a Persian lime or a bear's lime. This is the Valencia orange. There's some flowers here, and these are self-pollinating, but I've got a few flowers in there, so maybe we'll see something this fall. Looks like I need to add some more support here. It's fallen over. This is what's been the most successful in the greenhouse this summer, the cucumbers. As you can see, they're on their way out here, but I have harvested hundreds of cucumbers off of these plants. And it's kind of created this little microclimate in here that this is a Meyer lemon tree really likes. And I'll show you, I've got a few lemons on there. I've got 3 lemons down here that are pretty good size. And then I've got 2 in here that are little, but lots of flowers. So I think it really likes it in this little shaded kind of protected space. But yeah, I gotta pull all these out. And that's okay because I've actually got more cucumbers growing over there. And I have some outside that I've been harvesting. And these were all a Diva variety, so they're specifically meant to grow in the greenhouse. Sorry if that blower is loud. Hopefully you can hear me. but these Diva cucumbers, they're the little snacker cucumbers. I've picked them all because they sell so well at the market. And also I let some of them get big so that I could pickle them. We just got done making a bunch of pickles last weekend, but they're done. Time for them to go. Oh, and what I was gonna say is they're greenhouse variety, so they don't need pollinators. And this is a pink lemon tree. No flowers, but isn't it pretty? And then my fig tree is still, I don't know, struggling. I have yet to see a fig. I pulled everything that was in this north bed out. I had some carrots and beets because the cucumber is just taking over. I had a soaker hose kind of explode, and so Joel's waterway, just water flows down into this hole, and then if it gets too full he pumps it out, but usually it just kind of evaporates. And this is the south bed. I pulled out some stuff that was in here because I'm getting ready to plant some fall stuff in there. I have just a few peppers there, more of the Diva and Unagi cucumbers, both cucumbers that can be grown in a greenhouse because they don't need pollinators. So I'm up here, up above the bottom in the south bed, and this is ground level, so it's hotter up here. But I have lots of tomatoes, lots of flowers I'm seeing now, whereas I wasn't seeing as many flowers toward the outside side of the plants, or if I was, they were getting kind of badly sunburnt. I can see if I can find one, but I've got some in here. Got lots of flowers and cherry tomatoes up here. I've got some I should pick in here. But all of the really good fruit is growing on the inside, so this side of the plants, not the outside or the Lexan side of the plants, which makes sense. It's a little cooler over here. They're not going to get sunburnt. That is one thing, you kind of have to not prune them too heavily. You kind of want them to create a canopy or, you know, some shade for the fruit to grow in here. But then you also want to make sure you prune them down low enough, because it's so humid in here that they'll start getting moldy. This is a new tomato for me, beefsteak, and you can see from the leaves that's pretty blighty. I don't know, it just doesn't really like it in here. And then past the tomatoes, these are those cucumbers I was showing from down there. And these tubes, I don't know if I've ever talked about these tubes before. These are the fresh air tubes. They go down 8 feet and out of the greenhouse. I can't remember if it's maybe like 30 or 40 feet. And they're really just a fresh air intake. There's no blower on them. And there's that blower that is pushing air down through tubes, and they go out and around the greenhouse, and then they come in way down there. So this is where the air comes in. And then up here, so that air will travel up, and there's going to be a fan right up here that will blow that air then down the full length of the greenhouse. But we're still working on that because So we tried putting the fan up there, and the idea is, I'm actually gonna go outside and talk because it is too hot in here. It's not so much that it's hot, it's just really humid. I gotta get this outside fan blowing some outside air in there. Okay, so we put the blower on top of the tubes, and the blower is pushing air down through the tubes. And then the air is supposed to come up through the other tubes here on the east end. And we're feeling a very slight breeze. And I think what we need to do is make sure that the blower on the west end that's pushing the air down into the tubes, I think we're like wasting a lot of that air that's being pushed. It's kind of getting, it's not all going into the tubes, it's kind of blowing outside of the box that's built around the tubes. So we have to figure out a way to really force that air to only go in the tubes. So that is the next thing that we are problem solving. It seems like there is no end of problem solving opportunities here. We have completed a project though, and that is the fencing. It is all done. Like, it's not half done, it's not 3/4 done, it's not 7/8 done. It is done. So I thought I would show you around the outside gardens now too. So we have got so many things growing in the outside beds right now, not the least of which is soil. We have been working really hard to amend the beds. I'm using everything from composted cow manure to peat to compost teas to worms, because this all used to be just forest, and we did clear this part of the property for the purposes of gardening. So I feel like everything we put down on the soil, the clay and what was here originally, just sucks it all up. But we are getting a lot of veggies, and I'll show you what we've got. And I really just kind of grew the squash and the pumpkins to cover up this space that we have yet to put beds in. And you can see we are a long way from covering that space. But we've got a few squashes and pumpkins. This one's probably my biggest one so far. I'm excited to eat acorn squash. I think that'll be yummy. And I've got some butternut too, actually. I've never grown these before, but they are so pretty. I've been using some trap cropping methods. So this is an amaranthus, and you can you see that little squash bug that's climbing around on there? That's the point, or what I was trying to do, is attract squash bugs to this plant so it would stay away from these plants. I just pulled out some green beans here, and I'm going to be putting in, not sure, more lettuce or something right here. This is my celery. I'm super excited about the celery. I failed miserably with celery last year. Look at that. That's growing awesome. I wish I would have put more of it out here. These were Minnesota midget cantaloupes that I started kind of late. But so I don't really expect to get anything from them. There are a couple of small fruits, but really what I was hoping they would do would be a ground cover out here, and they hardly have even done that. I did start some fall lettuces. So we have some red oak leaf and some regular oak leaf. And I'm already seeing grasshoppers jumping around in there. But my lettuce bolted in June, and so hopefully this will be better. And this is the strawberry and asparagus bed that is incredibly weedy, but we're still getting a few strawberries out of there. Back here I've got some, these are like giant kohlrabi. big those things are. They're huge. I don't want to let them get too big. Oh, look at that. I've got some aphids on there now. So I'll pick these and eat these, or bring them to the market. And I'm also seeing these little caterpillars. So these little cabbage worms. It's hard to see in my camera here. Do you see that? So for the last few weeks, I've been telling myself whenever I go to town, Nina, buy a butterfly net so that I could get rid of some of these cabbage moths. Let's see if you can see any. They're all those little white moths that you see in your garden, and they have been just abundant the last couple of weeks. And so they lay these little eggs on the underside of especially the brassicas they like. So like the kohlrabi, man, I'm seeing a lot of worms on that one. Thankfully it's just the leaves, and those are just about done. So I'm gonna take those out and feed the leaves and the worms to the chickens. And my hope was that kind of these big kohlrabi were going to be a trap crop for the pak choi that I planted. So these little ones are pak choi. These are some old kind of large basil back there we're still harvesting a little from. But you can see that I'm having a lot better luck with the pak choi than I was in the spring. Spring is flea beetle season, man. And I mean, I can see a little bit of flea beetle damage here. You can see the holes in the leaves, but not nearly as bad. And I'm hoping with the cool temperatures, it'll keep it from bolting as well. These are some purple kohlrabi. So these are a lot smaller. These have a little bit of growing to do yet, but oh, here's a nice size one. So I'll probably bring those to market on Monday or Thursday, sorry. More kohlrabi that are hosting the cabbage moths. More pak choi. So I can see if I can find a little, see all the eggs, like right here. This is an egg. And they lay them whenever they land, and then they turn into caterpillars. On this end of the garden, we're still harvesting carrots from this bed. And I have more amaranthus down there. Let's see. I think this one was trap cropping aphids for me. Yeah, I can see in there it's got some black aphids. But this is my other cucumber bed. Been getting a lot of cucumbers. Here's I think this is a muncher. It's kind of like a combination of a pickling cucumber and a English cucumber, because it's just got really tiny spikes. The grasshoppers, you can see, have had a heyday with this. These are the unagi ones, and those have been really, really good too. They're like the English cucumbers you see in the store. Then we have our 5,000 onions. I've got some leeks in this bed too, actually. But these red of Florence onions, they're an elongated, like tube-shaped onion. They're really good. And why I grow them is they're really easy to cut because they're not round like other onions. I think this is a sweet Spanish onion. None of them are really dying back yet, so I'm just leaving them. I've put some new cabbages down here. So these are a Brunswick, a heading cabbage. So I've got them in here so when I pull these onions out, they have room to grow. I finally figured out this sweet stem broccoli. These are kind of some sad specimens. Well, here's a better one. And I figured out how to harvest these. You're just harvesting the sprout, and it's really the stem that tastes so good. So we make a broccoli salad mostly using the stem. But it's been providing broccoli all summer long. So I did plant more of it for the fall. And these are some Napa cabbages. I just let this mullein plant grow in here because I just wanted to kind of see what it did. This is mostly a bed of leeks, but at the very end we have my very favorite onions called cipollini onions or gold coin onions. Let's see if I can find a good example here. So they're pretty small, but they're super sweet. I've been harvesting a few of those every now and then. Over here are, I can't remember which potatoes these are, if they're the Yukon Gold or the russets, but they're pretty weedy, but they're still growing, so I'm not going to dig them out yet. I did pull out all of the red potatoes. We had Norland potatoes in this bed, and now I've replanted it with cauliflower and broccoli. More of that sweet stem broccoli. And we've got some yellow squash growing in here. This one has a really gnarly spider living in it, which I just noticed today. And it's right under that leaf, but it's hiding so well I can't see it. I do not want to stick my hand in there. But we've got lots of yellow squash. And I think this was a zucchini that I never got anything from. And this is a patty pan squash that I've gotten a few from, not a ton. I don't know if you remember, this was the bed that there it is. This was the bed that I accidentally had planted potatoes in already. And then I came in and planted these squash, forgetting that I had potatoes in it. And I thought, well, I'll just see what happens. It looks like the potatoes, well, that one may be okay, but the potatoes that were within the area of the squash here probably lost. Looks like I need to water these. I had some kohlrabi here that were just, these just kind of showed up because they were in the compost, I think. And this also was just in the compost, some lettuce. But these tomatoes are finally starting to put on some weight. Note to self for next year, remember to leave the tag in the ground for the Aunt Ruby's green tomatoes. Because I don't know which ones they are right now. I've got lots of the San Marzanos, still green. This is a beefsteak. And as you can see, it likes it much better out here than it does in the greenhouse. Looks like some kind of starting to turn. Oh, there's a nice one under there. This is a Dr. Witchy's. Oh, that's weird. Why do you look like that? Those are Joel's favorite, the yellow ones. And cherry tomatoes that aren't ready yet. What's this one? That's a big one. That might be the biggest one. I think these are Dr. Witchy's. Some berries, crazy cherries. What is this? Is this a Bonnie's Best, maybe? Not sure. These are the super sweet 100s. Those are looking really good. It's so pretty how they grow. I haven't done much pruning out here. Kind of was last minute putting these in the ground, and I've just kind of let them go. More berries, crazy cherries. These things just get like thousands of flowers. Those will all be cherry tomatoes. That's a nice one. I don't think I did put any of the Aunt Ruby's green out here. Wow, look at the size of that one. That's definitely multiple blossoms that fuse together. What is this one? Not sure. Bonnie's Best, maybe? I ran on a cattle panel, so I was doing the string technique out here for these last few. But this is awesome. They're all starting. Most plants have some that are starting to turn or have turned. But this whole system with the cattle panels and the T-posts has worked really well. You can see they even still have room left to grow over there. And the only other thing growing out here are some sunflowers. I've never grown sunflowers before, but I will always grow sunflowers. They are so pretty, and they attracted a lot of pollinators. And I didn't realize that these will get multiple heads on them. You see how this is one stem, and it has multiple heads. But they are so pretty. Ugh, bug in my eye. I think what I'd like to do is go all along the fence. So all the way from that corner to me, and then I'll go to this new gate here. So this was the final part or piece of the fence that we just finished. We added some of the fencing to the gate so that little things can't get through. Having a gate like this makes me feel like we should have a horse or something. So now I thought I would show you how the chickens are doing. They are still moving around we have like 6 or 7 spots that we move them from. We move them every week, so they're not on the same spot for about 6 or 7 weeks. Hi, kids. We have 27 laying hens, no roosters. They all like my ring, so they all go for that. They are Rhode Island Reds. You're the pecky one. This one likes to peck me. I don't know why. But because I'm always so nice to you. We have Rhode Island Reds, Black Stars, Red Stars, a couple of Americanas. One lays a blue egg, and I think 2 lay pink eggs. I'm not sure exactly which one lays what, but I know we get pink and blue eggs as well as the brown legs from everybody else. But they're fun. And we move them every week so they keep the weeds down here. And hopefully someday this will all be very fertile garden space. We have recently upgraded the coop and put a automatic door on it. So this little thing runs off of a battery, and we just program in there that we want it to open at 6 a.m. and close at 10 p.m. And we'll probably change up those times a little bit, you know, as the sun is changing. But right now that's working, and it's awesome. There's no more fighting about who's gonna go out and open the chicken coop. And they get out as soon as they want, and we just come out and feed them when we get out here, which is still pretty early, but they have plenty of pasture or grass to keep them busy until we get out here with new food and water them every day. Why do you keep pecking me? Why? What is it? We are still getting about 2 dozen eggs a day. We did deal with an egg eater for a little while. So you can see there's a blue egg and a pink egg in there. And they lay them in the nesting boxes, but they also sometimes lay them down inside the mobile coop. And I don't see any right now. That's good. Because then what that means is I have to open up the door. So the chicken coop, the big door opens. I'll show you. Set you down here for a second. So there's a latch on here. And then I have to climb inside of there to get out any eggs that are on the floor. And depending on how level this is, could mean that when I step in there, the front end goes up and I go this way. Like I said, always problem-solving opportunities here. Just a quick update on the peach trees that had all the spider mites in the greenhouse. They've been outside now. They're actually looking like they need a little water. But they've been outside now, I don't know, was that like maybe March or April, something like that. And I actually have harvested a peach off of that tree, and it was delicious. And for those of you who are looking for an update about Eric, Eric is our 18-year-old son. He is at Fort Moore in Georgia right now. He, I believe, is on week 7 of his basic training, and he's doing awesome. He has been able to call us, not really very regularly, but we've gotten letters from him. Most of the time when he calls, it's on the weekend. However, we didn't get a call this last weekend, which is always kind of a bummer, but we did find out that his graduation from basic training is September 22nd. So Joel and Owen and I, and maybe Kyle, will be flying to Georgia to see him graduate. It's called a turning green ceremony. I am beyond excited to see him. We are exchanging letters with him. We're using the Sandbox app. That seems to be the most efficient way for us. You basically pay, you know, a certain amount of money, and you can send so many letters, and you can send a picture and gift cards, because there's a whole list of things that you cannot send to your trainee. There's no food, no electronics, although he did ask me to send him a portable battery charger for his phone, because he's not always by an outlet that he can be charging his phone when they do get their phone privileges. Like sometimes he's calling us standing in formation and he gets like 60 seconds and that's it. That's really chaotic, and was really hard to hear him when he did that. That was right away in the beginning. So after his first week was called reception. That's kind of, they do all the paperwork. And then the he moves to his permanent barracks, and he called us standing in formation. There's 60 other guys also on the phone around him, so you can imagine it was a little bit of chaos. And then we didn't hear from him for about 3 weeks, which I will just say was really hard. And he just started receiving our letters. So last week, I think he said he got all of the letters that we've been sending. So I think Fort Moore is one of the largest forts or training bases. So they have a lot of mail. So all this mail comes into their mailroom, and it doesn't get to the soldiers right away. But he's finally getting our mail. We've sent pictures. Owen sent him some Beatles stuff because Owen is Eric is a huge Beatles fan. So if anybody wants to message me and get Eric's address, he would love to hear from any of you. So let me know if you want the address. I assume if you've been listening this far or watching this far, your family or chosen family. What else? Oh, I found the correct Facebook group to join, and so they must have a photographer that follows them around doing their training exercises. So I found a Facebook page that mentioned another website that has all of their training photos, and it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. But if you know their company and their roster number, and you can kind of narrow it down between all the folders. They just kind of do a photo dump, I think, but they are in there by date. So I've spent a lot of time looking through those folders, and I'll share some of when I edit this video, I'll share some of the photos that I've found. One of the first ones was the tear gas exercise. They have to walk through a building filled with tear gas, and then they have to take their masks off, and it kind of, they come out spitting and choking and falling down, and for me as a mom, it hurt my heart a little to see that. For Eric's brothers, they were like, that's awesome, that's hilarious. And then when we did finally talk to Eric after I'd seen that picture, we asked him about it, and he was thinking basically what his brothers had said, that it was pretty awesome to get to challenge himself that way. So I felt better about it. It's still hard to see him struggle like that, but that's just me. So like I said, we are planning a trip to Fort Moore, and I cannot wait to see him. But being able to find these pictures and to finally be getting a few phone calls, it's like your kid fell off the face of the earth when he goes to basic training, and then all of a sudden you found him again. So it's really, really, really been good for me. And Eric is doing something called OSIT, which is one station something training. I'll put it up on the screen when I find out what it really is, which means that he's doing it's 9 or 10 weeks of basic training, and then he will do 12 weeks of his AIT, which is advanced individual training. That one I remember. And Eric has picked 11 Bravo or infantry as his job or his MOS. So he will stay at Fort Moore after he graduates from basic training for 12 more weeks, and be doing his infantry training then, which these infantry training people are pretty badass. They're pretty impressive. He is this week also getting ready to do something very difficult. So I ask anybody out there to be sending extra prayers and extra good vibes to Eric this week as he prepares to do something called the Forge. And now I don't know all the details. Maybe some of you out there have experienced it before, but it's a 96-hour fitness training exercise where it sounds to me like they kind of simulate combat situation for 96 hours. They sleep very little. I think they eat, MREs, which I think he's been eating a lot of MREs already. And it basically will test them to their brink. So please be sending extra strength and encouragement to Eric this week. I think he's really gonna need it. Thankfully, they've had a little bit of a temperature drop down there this week. They're not high 90s anymore. They're, for this week anyway, they're like high 80s. So I constantly worry about him in those hot fatigues in that really hot weather. He's used to northern Minnesota, the zone 3 or 4, and I don't even know what the zone is there, 7 or 8. So, but he always really liked it hot. So thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, we hope you'll subscribe and follow along. There will be more on our greenhouse in the snow here soon. We'll be planting more stuff in there. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.